When you marry someone, you never imagine that one day they'll use your deepest insecurities as a weapon against you. I thought my wife and I had built something strong, 7 years of marriage, 2 kids, a house we both worked hard for. We had our arguments like any couple, but I always believed respect was the foundation we stood on. That belief shattered the night she smirked across the dinner table and said, "At least my ex was bigger." The words hung in the air like poison. For a second, I thought I had misheard her, but the smirk on her face told me I hadn't. She wasn't joking. She was trying to cut me down, to make me feel small, and she succeeded, at least for a moment. My chest tightened, my hands shook under the table, and I stared at the woman I thought loved me. She laughed, brushed it off, and said, "Relax, it was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive." But I could see it in her eyes. She meant every word. It wasn't just a slip of the tongue, it was a confession disguised as humor. A confession of disrespect, of contempt, and of something far worse. For months, I had felt something was off. Her phone was always locked. She started working late. She became distant, cold, and uninterested in intimacy. I told myself I was overthinking. That stress was changing her. But deep down, I knew. And her cruel little joke wasn't just an insult, it was confirmation. But I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't even argue. Instead, I looked her straight in the eye and said calmly, "Funny you brought him up, because now you're free to go back to him." She blinked, confused, the smirk faltering. "What do you mean?" she asked, her tone suddenly defensive. I stood up, walked over to the cabinet, and pulled out a plain folder I had been keeping hidden for weeks. Inside were screenshots, photos, and printed call logs. I had hired a private investigator when my suspicions became too strong to ignore. What I discovered broke my heart but steeled my resolve. She wasn't just disrespecting me with words, she was actively betraying me. I placed the folder on the table and slid it across to her. "Open it," I said quietly. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. The color drained from her face as she saw pictures of her car parked outside a hotel. Screenshots of texts where she told him, "You're so much better than my husband." Photos of them together, arms around each other, laughing like the family she had destroyed didn't exist. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Tears welled in her eyes. She tried to stammer an explanation. "It's not what it looks like. I was lonely. It didn't mean anything." I cut her off. My voice was calm but cold as ice. "It's exactly what it looks like. And your joke tonight? That was the final nail in the coffin. You didn't just betray me. You mocked me. You mocked the man who worked to give you a good life. You mocked the father of your children. And for what? For someone who doesn't even want you beyond the thrill of sneaking around." She broke down crying, reaching for my hand, begging me not to do this. But I pulled away. "You made your choice," I said, "and now I'm making mine." The next morning, I called my lawyer. Divorce papers were drafted, and with the evidence I had, the case was ironclad. She tried to delay. It tried to play the victim, but the judge didn't buy it. Her own messages, her own photos, her own words destroyed any defense she had. The custody battle was brutal. But again, the evidence spoke for itself. I showed the court how she prioritized her affair over her kids, how she snuck away at night and left them home, how she used our family's money to fund her secret outings. In the end, I was awarded primary custody. She was granted visitation, but only under strict conditions. She walked out of that courtroom with nothing but a bag of clothes and a hollow look in her eyes. The man she had thrown everything away for? He vanished the moment the affair was no longer a secret. Once she was divorced, once she had no home, no stability, no image to hide behind, he cut her off completely. She tried calling him, begging him to stay, but he never answered. Months passed. She started showing up at my door, crying, saying she had made the biggest mistake of her life. She said her joke that night wasn't serious, that she was drunk, that she was just trying to get a reaction. But I didn't care anymore. I told her, "You wanted him. You mocked me. Now live with the consequences. And I shut the door in her face. Meanwhile, my life began to heal. My kids and I found peace again. The silence in the house was no longer heavy with secrets and lies. We started building new memories, traveling, laughing, rediscovering what family really meant. For the first time in years, I felt free. Her downfall was complete when she lost her job. Word of her affair had spread, and the professional reputation she once had crumbled. She tried moving in with friends, but even they grew tired of her constant drama and regret. She ended up in a small rented room, living paycheck to paycheck, staring at the ashes of the life she burned. And sometimes, late at night, I remember that dinner table, her smirk, her cruel little joke. And I remember my response. The calm, brutal line that ended everything. Now you're free to go back to him. That was the night I stopped being her husband. That was the night I stopped being her fool. She thought she was mocking me, but all she did was expose herself, and in the end, the only person left crying was her.